Sell all you have, give it to the poor, and come follow me. We'll talk about that in a minute. Consider the lilies of the field. Blessed are the poor. And today, don't store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, on earth. You can't serve God and wealth. If you're going to deal with Jesus's greatest hits, you're going to deal with verses like this. Because Jesus knows what trips up humans, what struggles deplete our spirits, what makes us turn to the dark side. I take to heart the things Jesus says, and after all these years, I'm not surprised to find that they often go against common wisdom and my own intuition. At least on the surface, it often looks like Jesus is trying to tell me something that doesn't seem to me to be in my best interest. So I'm not surprised, and I get it, that Jesus is very often countercultural and counterintuitive. But I want you to notice, because we're going to get into some of the subtleties here, because I think, just notice. Jesus doesn't say you can't have God and wealth. He says you can't serve God and wealth. That is a kind of subtle thing to notice, but it really helps us understand. Now, please don't quit listening now thinking you just got a get out of jail free card and a moral loophole just opened up wide and you can, keep barreling down the road of chasing wealth. I just think it's too easy to dump these kinds of pronouncements on people and then just walk away as if they're black and white and obvious. Just impoverish yourself, give away everything, and pursue only spiritual things. I'm not going to do it. We all know I'm not going to do it. I don't even think in a literal sense it's a very good idea. But Jesus speaks in hyperbole. It's his way. And he does it for a reason. Pithy sayings like this are exaggerated and punchy because that makes them memorable. And when they're memorable, we repeat them to ourselves over and over and over. And this is like a golf swing. The more you hear it, the more you say it, the more you deal with it, the more it gets grooved into your life. So Jesus pretty much always seems to distill his ideas into little sharp pointed sticks so that we will pay attention to them and remember them and groove them into our lives. Transformation comes slowly, and repetition is what makes it happen. Don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust consume. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So, here we are listening to Jesus talk about treasures on earth versus treasures in heaven, and it's easy enough to understand that Jesus is trying to get us to pay less attention to treasures on earth and more attention to treasures in heaven. Last week, we listened to Jesus talk to his enemies, and his followers got to stand around and listen when he was asked that trick question about Caesar and taxes, and he just steps away from the obvious controversy and says, pay your taxes, don't pay your taxes. It's beside the point. The real question is, what are you going to do for your soul? What are you going to do for your soul? And that's similar to the point Jesus is trying to make here with this passage. Now, I just want us to be very clear. Treasures in heaven does not equal Christian delayed gratification. It is not a call for Christians to live as if the only thing they should be doing is making deposits in their eternal investment account, the dividends of which will be paid out someplace later. We don't seek out suffering in order to earn a place in heaven. Life's going to deal out enough suffering without us chasing after it. These words of Jesus are good precisely because they liberate us to live in grace and peace and love and healing and wholeness right now, in the here and now. For all of human history, people have sought to define and represent themselves by what they possess. In most societies, the accumulation of treasure is more or less about power, status, and stuff. Power, status, and stuff. And it's what gives us security. A craving for power is a craving for security. A craving for status is a craving for security. A craving for stuff is a craving for security. And Jesus liberates us from the fear of scarcity, sends our attention away from obsession with security, power, status, and stuff, and frees us, liberates us from the fear of scarcity, from the fear of powerlessness or nobodiness. Then, once we have enough and know we have enough, we begin to ask ourselves how we use our power, how we use our influence, how we use our stuff, so that the world can be a better place for everybody, including us. And then there's that passage right between the ones that seem to be about money, and they're not about money. The eye of the lamp is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. In ancient times, light did not go into the eyes, light came out of the eyes. That's how they perceived it. Is light did not come into your eyes, light came out of your eyes. That's why blind people were shunned, is because they had no spirit, no love, no light coming out of them. And in the movie that's kind of our theme movie metaphor for this series, It's a Wonderful Life, we have this classic movie, usually deemed a Christmas movie, but it's not really. And for those of you under 50, just be warned here, they used to make movies in black and white. So don't be startled when you see this picture. Throughout this movie, this older guy on the right is Clarence. He's an angel, second class. He's trying to earn his wings to be a first-class angel, and God has sent him down to help George Bailey, and that's George Bailey on the left, Jimmy Stewart. And Clarence is, throughout the movie, showing George, who is despairing and suicidal, what his town and his family would look like if he had never been born. You've been given a great gift, George, Clarence tells him, a chance to see what the world would be like without you. Think about that. What would the world be like without you? Would it be a worse place? There are some people not so much, right? But Clarence says each person's life touches so many other lives. And when they're not around, it leaves a pretty big hole, doesn't it? We live an incarnational faith. We only really seem to use the word incarnation around Christmas, so we equate it with babies. But it really means God in carne. Carne as in carnivore, meat, flesh. Faith in the flesh. God in the flesh. Spirit in the flesh. Our faith is an incarnational faith. It is a faith expressed through our bodies. People don't see what you're thinking. They only see what you do. We have an embodied faith. It's a faith that, like Jesus, is not just an idea. It gets lived out in our actions in the world. So here's the big idea today. Jesus is offering us a courageous vision for our whole life. Jesus is offering us a courageous vision for our whole life. I'm reminded of Matthew 19 when Jesus is talking to the rich young man, and he tells that rich young man, sell everything you have, give it to the poor, and come follow me. You know, that is not a commandment for everybody in earshot. It's not a general commandment to everybody. It is a demonstration of Jesus' particular and peculiar insight into the spirit of that man. And the gospel writers felt that so many of us are like that man that they included this story, so that we could all see what Jesus would say to us if we were trapped in our obsession with power, status, and stuff. But Jesus is not telling everybody to sell all they have, impoverish themselves in order to follow him. He's telling the people who, like this rich young man, are absolutely trapped in their wealth and they need to be free of it so they can follow. I mean, we know what the dangers are here, right? They're different, a little bit different from everybody, but we see it all around. Petty unkindness and deeply destructive evil all come from the same place. Our obsession with security that we think we're going to find from stuff, from influence, from power, from celebrity. It comes from a place in us that can't pay attention, doesn't seem to be able to draw our eyes away from those things and look for grace, mercy, healing, wholeness. It comes from a place in us that just has never really learned what really brings meaning to our lives. And that's why we're here, is to learn that and learn it a little more and a little more and a little more, and to learn it again when we forget it. There's a more subtle and nuanced way to look at this, I think, and I'd like to share it with you. Consider this. Is it possible that our stuff can be an expression of the love of beauty, an appreciation for art and the creativity of others? Do we seek to bring beauty into the world? Does it provide a place of hospitality, welcome? Is our power a tool to help others? Knowledge and power can help other people. As a perfect reason to get a medical degree or a legal degree, or dare I say it, run for public office. Does our status or reputation provide influence to make things better? Think of the celebrities who get involved in good works and inspire their fans to do so as well. And I'm going to help y'all here. Some of you know who's on the left. Want to share? Bob Hope. Some of you know who's on the right. You want to share? Oh, that's interesting. Fewer of us know who Bob Hope is, and more of us know who, well, okay there. Finding our treasure is about our attitude and our action. Finding our treasure is about looking outward and looking inward. Finding our treasure is about aligning body and spirit. And it's a process, but we do it, it's kind of like muscle memory. If you want to learn how to swing a golf club, you have to do it over and over and over. What do they say? You have to practice something 10,000 hours before you master it. The only thing I'm that good at is sleeping and eating. But that's what happens. We acquire a lot of the spiritual grace that is on offer when we repeat things over and over, when we repeat practices, when we make certain things habits. We don't just wait for some cloud to open and for us to be struck spiritual. We nurture it as we make conscious decisions over and over every single day. That's why these words are not a fear tactic to scare you to heaven by making sure you give away everything you own. Some of you probably need to, but most of us don't. Also, most of the stuff I own, nobody wants. These words of Jesus are freeing precisely in their subtlety and their repetition. They free us step by step, bit by bit, day by day, habit by habit. They free us to see the grace everywhere and for our lives to be filled with gratitude by God's merciful provision right now. May it be so for us today and in all the days to come. Amen.